Hello, everybody. Welcome to this online Q&A session with three of the filmmakers that have a film that was part of the selection at Go Short this year. As we all know that due to the Corona crisis, the festival unfortunately had to be cancelled. But we worked very hard after the cancellation to still offer you a wide selection of films online. And we are very proud that we could transfer a large portion of the program to our newly developed VOD platform, Go Short Online. I assume and I hope that many of you have already signed up for this platform and that you have watched many films, that you enjoyed our program. If you haven't yet, you can still do so, and do so please as soon as possible, because the online program is only available until next week, Wednesday, the 13th of May, and we have 180 films on there, so you still have a lot to watch. My name is Niels Ketelaars. I'm one of the programmers at Go Short, and I will be your host for this session. At Go Short, we find it very important to not only show you the amazing short films that we find, but also introduce you to the people behind those films. To ask them what inspires them, how they work, and why they choose film as a medium for their stories. And obviously, normally we do this in the cinema. We get the audience and the filmmakers together and let them meet and interact directly. But now we can't do that, so we do this online. And let's see. First of all, thanks to all the filmmakers that are available to do these Q&A sessions with us in this weird setting. We have three of them here tonight. And thanks also to the technical team behind this, Joop and Polona of Film Technique and Green DCP, for running this very smooth live stream. Okay, so on to the films. You can already see our three guests of tonight. We have Pia Ilonka Schenk Jensen, Jannis Lenz, and Cassandra Offenberg. Hello, all three of you. We will dive deeper into each of your films in a bit, but first I would like to ask you to briefly introduce yourself and your films. So, Pia, you are the director of The Birthmark, which was part of our European competition. And please tell us a little bit about you as a filmmaker and your film.
Thank you, Niels, and thank you so much to Go Short and to the audience who is taking this challenge of watching the movies online. My name is Pia Ilonka Schenk Jensen. I made a short documentary film with my co-director Bernard Hetzenauer from Austria. And the film is basically the testimony of a mother who lost her daughter to a homicide, or what we call a femicide, when it is directed towards women because they are women. So it's the testimony of a mother, and we use abstract visuals to tell the story. And me as a filmmaker, I studied communications and then a master in visual anthropology in Berlin at the Freie University. And I've been working a lot with short documentaries and medium-length documentaries about trauma and difficult personal psychological issues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You are calling in from Mexico because you live there, and your film is also produced in Mexico, right?
That's correct. The film was produced with funding from CPH Lab, from the festival CPH Docs in Copenhagen, which I really recommend to anyone interested in documentary films. And but the film was made here in Mexico, and I've been living here for many years. And I'm calling from the Pacific Ocean. Yeah.
Thank you. Moving on, Jannis, can you are the director of the film Battlefield, which was part of the Go Short student competition. What can you tell us about your film?
should I tell something about myself before? Or
yeah. Yourself and your film, and just a brief introduction.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Jannis. I am from Germany. I studied directing in Vienna at the Film Academy. And my film is about soldiers doing gardening work. It's a very simple thing, but I hope you can see a lot of other things in this little microcosm.
We will definitely get into that a little bit later. Thank you. And last, Cassandra, you are the director of Short Trip, which was part of our Dutch competition and received a special mention by the jury 2 weeks ago. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me here. My name is Cassandra. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm now in Amsterdam, and I'm the director of Short Trip. It's a film or documentary about a group of friends go on a short trip, and they lost their best friend a year and a half ago. And it's about the kind of feeling of immortality of these young boys. Yeah, I made this film with Bitfilm, the production company, and that's it for now, I think. Yeah.
We'll get into it later. Before we move on to have a closer look at the Birthmark, I have to say one more thing to all the viewers, because this is a live stream. We have the possibility for you to ask questions as well. So if you have a question, please drop it in the comment section on the right bottom top somewhere on your page. I will check these questions regularly and ask them to the filmmakers at a certain point in this session. So please don't hesitate and ask anything you want there. Pia, we'll start with your film. We're first going to watch a short clip of The Birthmark.
Okay.
Transcurría muy rápido el tiempo. Y hasta que me desperté, bajé rápido a buscarla. Pero ya en mi corazón presentía algo. Ella no había llegado. Le hablo por teléfono y me dice: mami, todo está bien. No te preocupes. No estoy tomando, mami, al rato yo llego. Y si se me va a cortar la comunicación. Y efectivamente, la comunicación se le cortó y ya no volvió a hablar con mi hija.
Okay, Pia, The Birthmark, it's a very intense, short documentary film. It's about a mother losing her daughter to a murder, like you described before. Well, where did this film start? Where did you find the idea, or how do you come across this story?
Thank you, Niels. I participated in CPH Lab, a documentary film lab at the festival CPH Talks in 2017. And about 2 years later, I got funding to do a project. And at the CPH Lab, they want you to explore the form of documentary. They want you to do things differently. So I got funding to make something that had to be experimental, that would like push the form of documentary. And some time back, I had been sitting at a cafe reading the newspaper when I came across an article about the murder of Victoria Pamela Salas, the victim, or the woman that was murdered in the movie. And it caught my eye for several reasons, but we have been experiencing in Mexico, in Argentina, and actually all across the world, but mostly Mexico and Argentina, a lot of femicides, which are murders directed towards women because they are women. So I was reading this article and it was very brutal, and I decided that at some point I wanted to bring the story up again and tell it, because I believe more in telling one story deeply than making something informative with a lot of numbers. I wanted people to connect through emotion. So I got in touch with an organization in Mexico that works with femicides, and lucky enough, they put me in touch with the mother of Victoria Pamela, and that's where the project started.
You got in touch with the mother, like you said, and it's her actual voice that you hear in the film. How did you get in touch with her? Like, how was the contact with her, and how was it to record this story with her?
I would say that most of the work with the film went into creating a trustful relationship with Consuelo. Her name is Consuelo, which means comfort. So first we met with her and did an interview. I worked with Bernard Hetzenauer, he's my co-director, and we interviewed her, and several months had passed, maybe even a year, but Consuelo, when she told the story, she would cry, she was sobbing, so we couldn't really hear what she was saying, and she was still going through grief, and she will her whole life, of course. So we couldn't use that first interview, and I had to do something very difficult, which was to get in touch with Consuelo one more time and ask her to record in a different setting. And I think this was the most interesting part of the process, because to keep it completely, how can I say, true to the essence of what Consuelo had told us, I made a transcript word by word from what she said. And then we took some things out that we thought would make the script, the documentary script, a little tighter. For example, when she talks about what she ate that day, or that her cousin came and picked her up and stuff like that. So we made a transcript, and then we had to have Consuelo sitting just with me and her husband, reading one sentence at a time. So I think when you watch a documentary and you think, oh, they just put the microphone there and then they just talk, that's not the way it works at all. There's a lot of work behind getting a testimony, and especially a testimony about something so painful.
So you wrote it out, you transcribed the first interview, and then she read her own words again out loud.
Yeah, sentence by sentence. It took about 4 or 5 hours, and we would just do one sentence at a time. And that's why the transcript seems so, how can I say, the story seems so calm when she tells it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually the one of the next things I wrote that struck me when I saw the film, is that it's very subtle. It's not only in the words and in the recordings, but also in the visual style. It's very subtle, but at the same time very sinister, or very with a lot of out of focus shots and the close-ups. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with the idea to visualize it in this way?
Yes. So I was working with Bernard Hetzenauer, my co-director, and he had this idea to explore a little bit the form of documentary. He said he had once worked with a lipstick camera, which is a camera this size of a lipstick, that's produced by Marshall, which make surveillance equipment. So this little spy camera, you can buy a macro lens. And for those of you who are not familiar with lenses, what the macro lens does is that it gets you really, really close to whatever you're filming. And the interesting thing about the lipstick with the macro is that it gets so close to the skin, to the hair, to the fabric, that you can't really tell what it is anymore. And well, we thought we wanted to tell the story in a subtle and respectful way. And we decided to then use the lipstick camera on the body of a girl that we knew and try to get some images from her body, because we were thinking of the body as a landscape. And so what's interesting with the lipstick camera is that, for example, the image that we just saw in the clip, that's actually a line, a little wrinkle from my hand. But maybe while you're watching it, it looks like a wound. So things are not what they seem to be. But most importantly about these images with the lipstick camera is that we want the audience to create their own associations. So what this type of images do, this type of abstract, sometimes we call them haptic images. This type of images do is that they make the audience create their own associations and go into their own mental archive and to their own emotions to look for a meaning in the image. Mm-hmm. And also not having too much going on the screen makes you focus more on the words and the testimony.
Yeah, I think for me that worked very well. And not only the images, but also the story itself. You managed to keep it very, very clean and very personal to the mother's perspective. And it made me think of a murder case, a terrible murder case in the Netherlands a few years ago. And I think that is exactly because it kind of, because it's the story of the mother, it becomes recognizable for the audience in a certain way. But that also triggered me to think about what happened after the film. You didn't make it very much of a political statement, which you maybe could have done, but no judgment there. But I just wondered what happened after. Did someone go to trial? Was someone convicted? Can you tell a bit about that?
Well, Victoria Pamela, the woman that was murdered, she was dating a guy. So we don't know if she said the mother said they were boyfriend and girlfriend, but they were sort of dating. And he was the last person to be seen with her. So I'll just give a quick rundown. Victoria Pamela was found in a motel room, murdered, and she had been under the shower for many, many hours under hot water. So there was no DNA that was able to be traced. And the cameras from the hotel, the videos, were missing. So we believe someone took those videos. So anyhow, the last person to be seen with her was this guy, and he disappeared for about 6 months. He went underground. He was a famous skater from a higher class, if we can say that, than Victoria Pamela. And he, perhaps he thought he could have immunity from this trial. But anyway, he disappeared for 6 months. And one day he decided he wanted to turn himself in because he says he's innocent. And he turned himself into the police in a supermarket. And then he was put in jail for 6 months. And there was a trial, but the trial has not ended yet. So we don't really know if it's him or if it was someone else. We have to await the trial. Okay. But this is something that happens so much in Mexico. I just want to say, in Mexico, Argentina, and all over the world. But here we have a statistic of 7 femicides a day. Mm-hmm.
Important to address the issue then that way. I read that you're developing a feature documentary project now. Can you tell anything about what you're working on for the future, especially in this difficult situation?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for your interest in the Birthmark and the work I am developing. Right now, I am writing a novel. I guess I would say I'm halfway through. And I've also been working, I have the script ready, but I was not able to travel to Norway to do the recordings. But it's a 6-episode podcast about rape, actually. A person very close to me suffered rape, and we talk about all the everything before, during, and after, but mostly after, how it affects your body, how it affects your brain, the trauma part, the contact with the police, the contact with other people who have suffered the same. And it's a personal narrative, like the diary of someone who went through that. So those are a couple of things that I've been working on. But I think after this podcast, I will look at something lighter and not so obscure for a little while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we'll move on. Thank you, Pia. If you have any questions for the others, please feel free to contribute. So we'll move on to the next film, which is Battlefield by Jannis Lenz. And first, we're going to watch a short clip. Okay, yeah. From a pretty dark and sinister film, we go to a little bit more light and slightly ironic film, I think. The film actually ends with a quote. You put a quote of Oskar Kokoschka at the end, which is "Weeds are nature's opposition to the governance of gardeners," which I think is beautiful. And it really applies to your film perfectly. And it made me wonder, what was first? Did you know the quote before starting the shoot of this film, or did you stumble upon it after shooting these images?
Yeah, actually, I had the material, but I felt that there is something missing, and I was editing it in another way. So first, it was only like showing this barracks in a state of peace. So if there's no war to prepare for, what do these soldiers do? So this was my first intention. And then I was looking for some inspiration and found this Kokoschka quote. And then suddenly everything made sense. And I started editing new, and it went all very quick. And I got a new view on my material, you could say.
So what was the story that you were planning to tell about the piece at an army base?
Yeah, actually, it was just like the idea of because it was a moment when there was so much like all the countries, like the people of the states yelling at each other, and for me it felt like if it continues like this, soon we will be like in a state of war or something like this. It just emotionally. And so I wanted to bring something positive to show like these people usually like preparing for war, and when there is no war, what do they do? And so they do this like peaceful work, like gardening, and there are butterflies flying around, and it was it just felt good. So.
And you stumbled upon the gardening soldiers when you got to the base, or did you have this in mind before?
No, actually, I was shooting. So this was material for a feature film I was shooting, or I am editing. But I had this material. We were in the barracks like for several weeks, and we had much time to just sit and watch. And time was passing by very slowly. And so I really and so I just discovered these rookies, so the very young soldiers, doing this gardening work, and it really fascinated me because it was so peaceful and calm and quiet, and we were sitting there and nothing was happening, and they were just cutting weed and stuff. And so I asked my DOP to film it, and so we collected material during the regular shootings. And I at this moment I didn't know what to do with it. I just knew I wanted to have this on film. And then later on I found this quote, and
it all clicked.
It all clicked.
Yeah, awesome. You mentioned or the film. It shows that you have been filming on this army base. Yeah. Was that challenging, or I can imagine that they don't want you to just walk around everywhere and start shooting.
No, there was always a person from the media department with us to control what we are filming. So it was all like it wasn't that easy, like going around in the city. And but it's after a while you get used to it, and so they recognized that. So we didn't want to do something like investigating film or something like this to show violence in the barracks or stuff. I think it's of course it's okay and good to do this kind of like films, but it wasn't our intention. So it was all in the beginning, it was quite tough also for me, because it was the first time I went to barracks. So I did, in fact, the whole team, nobody of us did his service. We all did social service. And so it was like very funny for us all to go to the barracks.
To finally make it there.
Yeah.
How did you show I assume you showed the film to the people on this barracks. Did they see it, and how did they react?
Not yet, no, not yet.
Oh, they haven't seen it yet?
No.
Okay.
No, it was all kind of complicated because of this whole also Corona thing. And
sure, yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah, Cassandra.
How did you choose the music? Or what was your idea?
It's actually it's very easy. It's the flower waltz. So
yeah.
No, but also on another level, I think it fits quite well, because it's also like it has some kind of old-fashioned style, and so to this quiet, wide areas, and So I just tried out several tracks, and this one fit, and I think okay, flower waltz. It had to be this one.
It made it really abstract or something.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, thank you.
Jannis, I've seen a few other films of you, but you mainly made fiction films so far.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you, were you already also shooting for a fiction film on the barracks, or was it also for a documentary project?
It's a mixture, so like a hybrid between fiction and documentary. So, or you could say a documentary with fictional elements, something like this. I felt like during the last films, I felt more and more the need to work in a documentary way. And but I try to handle every project new to try to find the right form for this topic or for the persons I work with. And in this case, it's a portrait of a friend of mine, and he's his different aspects of life, you could say. Yeah.
So how do you make this decision to, when do you decide, or like, yeah, how do you gravitate towards either fiction or documentary? Is it very much based on the topic or the story that you want to tell?
It's very different. Sometimes I know it from the very beginning when I have a very strong story and I know I have to have all these things in it. But usually I work with people who I'm interested in and try to build up stories on their life. So there's very much they bring in by themselves, and then it depends how good this is for the film, or if I need some more fictional elements to make it more interesting. Or but usually I try to build it up on their lives as good as possible. And so sometimes I decide on set, and sometimes even in the editing room. So I had situations where I was shooting a lot of fictional elements and cut them all out during the editing process because they didn't feel good for me, and then it turned out more documentary. So it differs.
Okay. You actually made an introduction video for to be shown on Go Short Online, which I really enjoyed. I think it's a very funny little video you made. And you can see it in the online hub. It's in front. It's before the film, if you want to see it. And we see that you have a kid at home, yes, and that you are currently editing a film, yes, and you're in kind of a lockdown situation. Yes. So how does this all affect your daily life and work?
So in the beginning, it was very relaxed because we were very close as a family. So my girlfriend, my son, and me. It was actually a very nice time in the beginning, despite all these horrible things going on in the world, of course. But then it got harder and harder because my girlfriend, she's working and I try to work, and so it's very difficult, like with the kid and yeah, this whole situation, like at home, you're like very close all the time. And usually it's, we are traveling and you're not picking that tough each other. So, but it's still, I don't know, for me, it's a very strange situation. Sometimes I think it's not that bad. And then sometimes it gets worse.
Yeah, because you also said in this little video that it kind of also opens new opportunities, and that we could maybe benefit from this situation.
Yeah, I think maybe in a spiritual way, or I hope at least that people use it to rethink lots of stuff. And I hope that we, when everybody's talking about we go back to normal, that they don't mean that normal we were doing like before this whole crisis, because I think then it won't take long until we have the next crisis in some way. Like there are so many things that went wrong before this whole thing. So I hope people use it to get more in touch with themselves and the people around them. And so that, I think that would be nice.
I totally agree. I think we are moving on to the next film, to Cassandra's film, Short Trip. Thank you, Jannis. Now let's check a short clip of Short Trip.
Great.
Wat schiet ik ermee op als ik wel ga beseffen dat hij echt dood is? Wat is het verschil als iemand op vakantie is en de telefoon uitstaat? Dan heb je misschien een klap die in slow motion komt, tot een klap die direct aankomt. Ik denk gewoon dat ik de klap heb vertraagd.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I was just checking if we have some more questions. So if you're watching, please drop your questions for the filmmakers. Yeah, Cassandra. I think like before you said that you wanted to capture this feeling of immortality or being invincible. And I think you really managed to do this. Why did you want to make this a film about this feeling? What was your inspiration?
Well, my graduation film was a documentary about youth or feeling of youth, and so I was still busy with this theme, and I also got fascinated by a thing that happened in my youth or my brother's youth actually, and because he lost a friend of him when he was 11 years old while they were playing, and they were throwing little stones to each other near a train rails, and every time you got hit by this stone you had to jump over the train rails to get your life back. Yeah, it sounds like a real crazy story when I tell it now, but I think they were not aware of this danger, or they were just feeling a bliss and be playful in a playful moment, and I got fascinated by this kind of little moment that this happened, and his friends got hit by the train, but I didn't really want to make a film about a younger age, and I thought, what if a group of young boys feel this way and don't be aware of the danger of life and be recklessness, and so I brought these two stories together, and that's how I came up with the idea.
But as I understand correctly, you created the story before you actually met this group of friends, right? You knew, okay, I want this group, they have to be this age, they have to be this kind of guys, and well, how do you go on from there? Because if you have such a specific image in mind, how do you manage to find a group that fits that image?
Yeah, that was a hard thing, because in the beginning, well, I think it came during writing this plan. Every time it got more clear what I was really looking for. So the fun thing is that this was the first group I found. But after I found this group, I went through with researching. So I spoke to 14 groups of friends. But after a while, I realized like maybe the first group was actually what I was really looking for. So was this your question, or?
Yeah, okay. Pia has a question.
Yes, I want to congratulate you, because I think your film is accomplished in so many ways. So I could just line up, like editing, sound design, cinematography, your vision more than anything, because that's just technical stuff, but like your vision. I wanted to ask, how did you become invisible? Because, well, first of all, you're a woman, and these are like testosterone-filled, almost teenagers on a ritual to become men. So how did you become invisible, and how much time did you spend with them?
Well, we went to France for a week, and we went to France because I wanted to create a kind of bubble, so they were really there and not have the option to leave the set or something. And we gave them this little camera, kind of handycam, and we shot sometimes with this handycam. And I think this is just the way they are. And that's how I chose them, because when I first met them, it were just 2 of them, but it was a month ago that their friend died, and they were really sad about it, but on the other hand, they were kind of dancing and show me this hardcore thing, dance, and it was kind of mixture of all these feelings. And they said like, yeah, come with us to this party. They were going to a party at that moment. And they were a little like this, and I was like, wow, these boys have this energy, what I'm looking for. And they brought this energy to France as well, because when we arrived in France, we planned to do some shooting on the car with a kind of car mount, and so it was the first thing we want to shoot. But then the cameraman was building up, and everyone was busy, and these boys got a little bored, so they start dancing and playing this music again, and that's where the end scene was created. And I said to my camera, just go filming, and I took the small camera and I started filming as well. So yeah, the car scene isn't in there anymore, but this scene, yeah, was kind of present. And so yeah, they have this energy, and we didn't do a lot for that. I think
a question kind of it's a little bit related to the question you asked, Pia. It's also a question that came up on Facebook. What happened between maybe the trip to France and the first time you met them? Like, how did you mingle, and how did you get into this group, and how did you develop the idea to go to France with them?
Well, the idea to go to France was to create a bubble, and I wanted to push them to be together for a week, and take them out of their own kind of life. So they had to think about this, their friend, and they had to become bored about things, and were not allowed to be on their phone the whole day because there was no internet and stuff. So I tried to get really close to their friendship. And what was the first thing?
Well, did you meet
in
multiple
between
times, or how did you get in touch with them?
Yeah, I didn't really get.
Okay.
I saw them, I think, 3 times. Like before we went shooting, I've seen them a few times, but then we just went for a drink. Or well, there was one time they had planned to go to a party in Amsterdam. So, and I wanted to interview them all together because I wanted to see how they were when they were with each other in one room. And they were like, no, you can't come to our house because we going to a party. And so they came to my house, and we drank a beer and talked about it. And then they get real emotional, but they were also a little drunk, and so maybe this was the time we get more close to each other. And they went to a party, but they hadn't an extra car, so they asked me to bring them, and in the car we kept on talking about this friend, and I don't know, so it was a more natural way to talk about it instead of really a more static interview setting or something. Yeah.
Okay. And then you dropped the idea to go to France with them for a week, and I can imagine that they said, okay.
Yeah, they loved this idea. Yeah.
You mentioned it before, but the hardcore music, it's a very, well, for me, it returns. It comes back a few times in the film.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it was the music that they listened to, but it's almost like a character in the movie. How did this evolve?
Well, Max, one of the main characters, the blonde boy, and Dave, the guy that died, they always went to these hardcore parties. So it was really a thing of them together. So it was maybe a little bit Dave who was there, because Max didn't go to hardcore parties anymore because it was something of him and Dave. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I didn't really plan to do so much hardcore in it. But in the end, it felt like a kind of energy, what I was looking for. And it has this danger in it and this dark side and also this power. So, and maybe it was a little like Dave, like feeling no danger. And so, yeah, I think you are right. And I love the talking in the hardcore music, that you always hear this voice. So I love to combine it with the cloud shots and the driving through under the trees and something. And then it feels like he was talking a little, and yeah.
Cool. We have a question on Facebook. What was the hardest part or the hardest scene to film?
Ooh, what was the hardest scene? Let me think. I don't know.
Was it difficult to get them use the camera, because you said you had some handycams that you gave to them? Did you have to give them instructions, or
no,
explicitly not, so they would do whatever they want to do?
Yeah. We were, by example, interviewing. Every day we had 2 interviews. We spent a lot of time on interviewing, so 4 hours a day or something. And then, while I was doing the interview, they were in there partying in their room with this camera and stuff. So I got it when we got back in Amsterdam. I looked to it and I was like, yes, we have this material. So it wasn't planned, and yeah. So everybody got this, took this camera sometimes and just played with it and filmed something. And yeah. So maybe that's why I really love it, because there was not really a plan for it, and it was just there.
And you also, because I didn't realize that before, but you went to France and you did all the interviews there, and so all the voiceovers are also made there.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do it there?
Well, I wanted to. I thought when I do it in the Netherlands, it's in a different kind of atmosphere or something. So I wanted to be in this bubble and do it over there. And I think that because we were there, they were more open to talk about it. But because in normal life, they don't really have time to think about this so much. They want to forget it and not talk about it for hours. And so we put them in a kind of empty room with a real setup. And yeah, but first of all, I planned to do all the interviews in the film, but it was kind of taking me out of this flow in the film. So I decided to throw them, put them out in the edit and just use the voiceovers.
Yeah, I think for me that worked very well. I think that's creative.
And I think then you get a more universal, yes, that's the word, feeling for this kind of immortality, like a bigger thing and not for one person or something.
It made them more of a group to me. Like I didn't know exactly who was talking, but it was like the group emotion that was displayed in their words. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we have any more questions on Facebook. I don't think so.
I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
I have a question.
I mean, I know this is a difficult question, but how do you think this would have been different if you chose a group of girls or young women? I mean, it would be very different, but I can't really imagine it.
No.
How would it be?
I think this kind of recklessness and invincible feeling is really a thing of boys, but I don't know why, but it's really like they think they have so much power or something. Maybe it's, I don't know, but it would be a total different film, and girls should talk a lot about it and think about it and have all the emotions. And I just loved the thing that they wanted to forget it, and thought he was on holiday and had his phone off.
I feel it's like they have the emotions contained, and those emotions have to come out one way or another. So this is the easy way for them. This is the way they're just dealing with it. They just come out as like dancing or screaming or getting drunk or driving the scooters.
So that's why I really was looking for a boy group and not for girls. But maybe I should make it with girls. I don't know. Once,
maybe next project.
Yeah.
Are you, because, well, also you are kind of stuck to home and dealing with the whole crisis. Are you currently still working on things, or do you have anything planned?
Yeah, well, I'm doing some more commercial things now. Some Corona things, but really weird. And I'm writing on a new film, a longer documentary, and I'm thinking about a short documentary. But yeah, I'm not in a rush. I'm a little like, take this time to think. And yeah, I actually love this kind of quiet period.
A bit like Jannis said.
Yeah.
Right.
Me too.
Peaceful. But yeah, it's bad that it's, and I hope what you said, that it's not getting back to a normal, hectic how it was or something. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna wrap it up. I want to thank you all very much for a peek into the films that you made, and also into your living rooms or kitchens or wherever you are sitting.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much. To round things up, I have a few more things to say about Go Short Online. Like I said in the beginning, we will be online until next Wednesday, the 13th of May. So if you want to see some films, please subscribe as soon as possible. In a few minutes at 9 o'clock, we will start a Go Short party online called Club Short. So go grab a drink and get your dance on tonight. Tomorrow we have a film quiz hosted by Go Short, obviously also online. And next week on Monday and Tuesday, there will be more Q&As with filmmakers. And among those filmmakers are the winners of the Go Short Awards for Best Student Film, the Best Dutch Film, and the Best Music Video. So that's on Monday and Tuesday. Check it out. That's it for today, and hope to see you tonight, tomorrow, or next week.